Hey everyone, welcome to another this is going to be an amazing interview. As you guys know that we are interviewing female executives, creatives, leaders in all different niches and areas of focus. And today we're interviewing Pamela Benson Owens. And before I have her introduce who she is, I want to share with you all just a little bit of something about Pam. Many of y'all don't know, and if you haven't been following us for a very long time, that Pam has been at the start behind her brand, literally from the first conversation. She is a huge advocate for women. She's a huge advocate for growth and for, I would say, if you're someone that's trying to go to that next place, she's definitely that person that's going to be a big advocate for your dreams and your goals and things that are within you. And I will say this. When I first started this whole thing, it was scary. If you guys heard my last Monday Morning Brew me about 2 weeks ago, I shared about this, that it's scary starting something and not knowing if you're going to have the support and all the things around it. And Pam is that person that literally gets behind not just a person, but organizations and groups, which you guys are going to learn more about. And I'm excited about having her here today because many people don't know the women who have really been behind her brand. And so today I'm excited for you to meet one of the main ones that have always been behind our brand. So welcome, Pam, to our interview series.
Thank you so much. Will you start with, I want to say something first about Pam. I freeze because I never know what you're going to say. I never know what you're going to say. I'm like, oh goodness.
No, that was a little choppy, but I was like, I wanted to make sure people knew who you were because I've always appreciated, your support and your friendship and just your honesty as well, just letting me know just things I need to know to help grow the brand. So I really appreciate that. And I think you and I talk about this a lot offline, that real sisterhood and having the right connections really can help you grow. And if you don't have that around you, if you have people that are just more yes people and don't really sharpen you, you don't grow. You just don't.
Absolutely. Well, behind her brand is doing so well. I just was on the beach last week for a couple of days. I won't call it vacation because when you're with a teenager, it's not. But I read it on the beach, and each issue just gets stronger. The women, you think you like run out of amazing women. You can't run out of amazing women. And so it's like my favorite thing to do. It's my treasured thing to do. I save it for a time when I really can do it. Like not interrupted. I say to my family, like, I'm reading it cover to cover. Don't bother me. And it just keeps getting better and better. I love it. It's so.
I appreciate that so much. Tell us a little bit about who Pam is, and that could be about your businesses or just who Pam is. How you describe that for yourself.
So I always introduce myself as Pamela Benson Owens, but most people call me Pam. But I introduce myself with all three names because I feel like I've earned all three names. I was Pamela Benson when I started my career, and then got married and became Pamela Benson Owens. And in every step of that, I just take full ownership of my name because there are seasons within those stages of my name. So I started my career in teaching English. I don't know a lot of
know that.
When I first got out of college, I went back to my alma mater to teach language arts. I wasn't even, I maybe just had turned 21. And I just remember going to central office and arguing with them because I thought there were zeros missing from my paycheck. I'm like, there is no way that I just went back for 30 days with these teenagers. This is my pay. Like, what is it? And so again, at that time, living in Austin, just trying to pay my rent, I did not pursue what was deep inside me, which is to be an entrepreneur because I was surviving. So I went on and continued to teach, and I took on about 3 other jobs in retail. I would leave that job and go to Montgomery Ward's, and then I would go to Bath and Body Works. I would go to Bell's, which is not even open anymore.
No.
Right? And I was like, I got to do something else. So then I went into a corporate job, into HR and communications. Again, did very well in that space. The president was like, we're not going to make you vice president in your 20s. We don't do that.
Yeah.
It's like, you should go start your business. And I literally resigned that day. And I had been married about 11 days.
That had to be fun conversation.
I came home to Arlen. I was like, hey, remember that dual income thing that we were so excited about? I just blew that up. Like, we're not doing it. And he said, I was waiting on you. And that was it. And I launched with about $300 in my savings account, EduC Consulting, right after that. and I've been riding in the organizational culture,
Mhm.
HR, coaching, change management, DEI, that whole suite of HR stuff, conflict resolution, ever since. Been
Mhm.
ever since.
Yeah. Now, you're not just the CEO of Edge of Your Seat, you're also running another organization. So tell us a little bit about that, as if you don't need more to do.
Right. So I run, so full time I run Edge of Your Seat Consulting.
Mhm.
And our structure, when we need project and work done, we have all free agent consultants that we hire in. We kind of have a core team, but we will hire as we need. If we have a real big project to lift, like a big master plan we're facilitating, or we're
Mhm.
doing like all international company training, I'll
Yeah.
hire other people. So I do that, but I'm also the full-time CEO of Six Square, which is
Mhm.
Austin's Black Cultural Arts District. And then I also sit as a officer in a coffee shop that our family lifted together a couple
Mhm.
years ago. So I'm always doing something, and it's interesting to me how my lived experience has
Mhm.
been helpful in all three of those roles. Like there's not
Yeah.
anything that I did when I worked the 4 jobs where friends stopped talking to me and didn't want to be friends with me because they're like, you're at the mall. Like that's embarrassing.
Yeah.
They're gone. Like I got rid of them because they were not seeing the bigger vision
Yeah.
kind of on my dream. But every one of those, whether I was peddling clothes at Chico's or I was
Mhm.
selling shower gel,
Yeah.
all of those things gave me the lived experience I needed to do these C-suite jobs that I've been in
Right.
for over 25 years, almost 30 years now.
It's crazy. So let me ask you this: in being in those different roles, it comes with advantages and disadvantages, I'm sure, or ups and downs, if you will. What are some of your biggest learning lessons that you have learned just as a professional in navigating conflict and navigating some of those ups and downs? Like, what are some of the things? Because I know just you offline that you deal with a lot. You don't get to those levels and not deal with those things. So how do you navigate the conflicts, ups and downs, and the challenges of being a CEO and running these different roles?
Yeah, it's been rocky the first couple of years because everybody tells you to be a leader and you
Mhm.
want to be in leadership. It's
Yeah.
a whole industry.
Mhm.
Leadership is hard.
Yes. Yes.
Leadership is complex. Leadership is lonely.
Mhm. Mhm.
You get decision fatigue all the time because you're like, man, if I pick
Yeah.
wrong, it's so heavy. Like I have human beings depending on me to pay their salaries,
Mm. Mhm.
right? So
Yeah.
the level of decisions is hard. So that's the big lesson. The thing that I did not get in the
Mhm.
first probably 13 years that I finally got is you have got to be comfortable with not being liked.
Mm. That's huge.
It's so hard because I
Yeah.
mean, who doesn't want to be liked?
Yeah.
But you can't always, you're not gonna be able to please everybody. You got to do what's best for the organization or best for the
Mhm.
institution. And nobody wants to hear this, best for yourself and your
Mm.
family.
Yes.
And a
Yes.
lot of times that nobody's signing up for that because it's going to impact them. And I also mean like family members. Sometimes you have to do as
Mhm.
best for your immediate family and your extended family's mad. So I had to really learn, and it took me a long time to realize you have to be willing to not be liked.
Mhm. That's big.
It's huge. You have to be a really good reader of people. I'm a people, I love people. And so I have picked wrong a lot. So I've really learned like, quality over quantity. I
Mhm.
need people, I thought I needed a circle of people around me. You
Yeah.
don't. Because the circle will blow you up. You need people in your corner. There's different.
Mm.
Circle
Mhm.
is somewhat conditional. Corner is I'm rolling up to your house at midnight. What do we need to do?
Right. Right.
Different, different kind of relationship.
Mhm.
And so I don't have many of those, but I have a couple.
Yeah.
You're one of them, like a
Yeah.
small,
I
like,
will be there. Yeah.
oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
but that messed me up for a while. I didn't figure that out. And then
Mhm.
finally, the biggest piece is if you don't bring people into the work that you're doing, they'll resent it.
Mhm.
So my kids are
Mm.
like they roll with me a lot. When a
Yeah.
couple weeks ago, I emceed an event because I was responsible for doing some fundraising for one of my clients.
Mhm.
We left that event at 1 a.m. We slept till 4 and we got in the car all together and drove to Galveston so I could be in place to do a keynote. Right. But
Yeah.
you don't bring people into your work, they resent
Mm.
it. In our household, we work together
Yeah.
in both
Same
life
here.
and business.
Same here. Yep.
Yeah, same for y'all. And so if you don't make them a part of it,
Yeah.
they resent it. So I learned early, like they got to be part of it. And at a certain point, it's like, if their eyes are open, my computer's off. Like, there's got to be time when you're fully present, because my kids are like, you're halfway in, halfway out. And Allison would test me and say, such and such green chicken. And I go, and she's like, you're not even listening.
Yeah. I love that you're saying that, because I remember a really pivotal moment when Christian was younger, and he wanted to spend time with me. So he went in my room and got my laptop and brought it to me. He said, okay, mommy, let's play. And I realized he associated me spending time with him with my laptop right there. And he was so young. And I was thinking, oh my God, like in my mind, I could be in a room with him, but I wasn't present. And he associated spend time and you work, mommy, and do this. And that changed everything for me. After that, it was like, no, you have my full attention. If he, even as a teenager, when he walks in and wants to talk, I say, okay, let me take a minute, and I can close up and say, I give him that minute. And this, it strengthens the relationship with them where they feel seen. But sometimes we can miss that when we're working so much, Right. But that was a lesson I learned a long time ago.
The scary part about what you're saying is Christian is taller than me and a grown man.
Yeah.
When you say his name, it flashes.
Oh yeah.
It being a bit like, I watch that.
Yes.
I watch that growth.
Yes.
And again, like, part of the biggest piece is what we don't say is when we decide to be present, the chances of us missing something, a client getting mad, missing a call is great. You just got to take the L. Yes. Like, I sometimes, like, people are like, oh my gosh, you missed this. I'm like, I was in the drop-off line. I didn't pick up. Right. Or I'm not getting on an 8 o'clock meeting because this is important. So there's a cost.
It is.
You got to weigh out the priority and what's the cost. And sometimes it hurts. Like, sometimes you're like, ooh, I just did a puzzle with Preston for an hour, which means I'm going to start doing emails at 9, which means I'm probably not going to get done till 11.
Right.
But it's worth the cost.
It is. Yes.
And somewhere in there, Preston's going to go, I need a poster board for my science project. I do it tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
And now I'm driving to CVS. You already know, like, right?
But I think it's all part of it. But the cost is worth it, And you said something earlier that I wanted to circle back to. I think it's so important because there's a big mantra always taught in business that people have to know, like, and trust you. Like, it's a KLT factor, and it's always being said and taught and everything. And I believe elements of it, but I like what you said, that you have to get comfortable with not being liked. And I'm a former people pleaser. And every so often that flesh want to come up again to want to be, all things to everyone. But how did you really work through that? Because that's hard for a lot of people to realize everybody ain't going to like me, because social media is so geared and marketing is so geared to like me, see me, want me. And, how did you work through that as where you are today?
Well, I think it's really interesting, and I won't get to, I could get into the faith piece real easily. I won't go deep in and start preaching a sermon, but I will say, I find it interesting when I look back over my evolution, how people are put in place, right, who are in that same space. And it's like an iron sharpened iron. So truth be told, there's a critical component to your growth where I started seeing you operate differently about who was around you.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt it. Like, it was like, ooh.
I felt it.
Happening over there. And how you stopped, like, proving yourself, justifying your behaviors. Yeah. I was like, oh, right. Yeah. So a lot of it was people around me were like, no more. Like, we're not doing that pleasing thing. So that's always good. But the other part of it is in the space of when I have to say no, I'm always fair, friendly, and firm, friendly, and fair. It's like, the answer's still this, but I don't have to diminish you to deliver the no.
I like that. Yeah.
I'm going to be fair about it, meaning I heard what you said, but here are the reasons why it can't happen that way again, because that last partnership wasn't reciprocal. We ended up paying all the money. You didn't put our logo on it, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you have to check yourself to make sure you're not doing these pieces as punishment. You're doing a boundary to protect you and the organization.
Yes.
From a set of poor choices will close the business.
Yes, it will.
3 of those, and you're having a very different discussion, right? And so that piece, and the other part of it was, I'm married to somebody who has firm boundaries around who he lets into his life. So sometimes we'd be sitting at dinner, and Arlen will lean over and go, they're not.
Oh. Yeah.
He'd be like, don't go into business with them. Here's sentences. And I didn't listen at first, but the bottom line is he's often right because he has a different skill set around. I'm not trying to please.
Right.
I'm listening differently than Pam is.
Mm.
And Arlen started telling me sometimes I would find anything of familiarity to latch onto for people to like me. So you might say like, yes, I love ice cream. And I'd be like, me too.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, a business arrangement with no MOU.
Yeah. Oof.
No expectation.
Yeah.
And then you get 2 months down the road and you're like, what, whoa. And getting out of it because was a people pleaser was like 65 sets. But Arlen would just walk in and be like, and we're done.
Yeah. That sounds like Charles.
Yeah. So part of the strengthening around those pieces that are your deficit is don't put yourself in situations.
Yeah.
It's why I don't have potato chips in my pantry. Girl, you put a bag of Lay's in front of me, it's a wrap.
Girl.
I eat it on the road. Now I'm gonna go to Buc-ee's and get it, but you won't find it in my house because I don't trust me with it.
I like that.
Do it. You know?
And I love that because I mean I think you also speak to in the way I'm interpreting it also the environment around you also, you know, really being protective of that, creating the expectations, creating boundaries, creating all those different things. When you're leading and growing as a leader, what has been some of your biggest, if you will say two main lessons you've learned as a leader?
As a leader, and I'm coming into this now and I laugh because there are people like you and others who would spend like 4 years asking me every week, like, when are you going to rest? When's your vacation? I'm like, I would avoid it. I'm like, I don't have time. I'll sleep when I'm dead. But in reality, one of the biggest lessons as a leader is understanding yourself well enough to know when you are at optimal leadership capacity.
Yes.
So I've learned I don't make good decisions in leadership when I'm hangry. I vibe better between 4 a.m. and about 3.
Okay.
And I probably shouldn't be doing any proposals or after 4. Like I have a down spot where I'm not as strategic.
Okay.
Learn that about myself. I've had to learn as a leader that just because it's an emergency on my client's part does not make it an emergency on my part.
Yeah. Exactly.
That one is a doozy.
Yeah.
Because if you work out of your home, email doesn't cut off. It's too accessible. Your office is always open unless you shut the doors. I have closed signs on my doors now.
Yeah.
For me. So I don't walk back in. Right. So it's that. And it's also, you know, as a leader, be very solid on your value proposition. And don't undercut yourself.
That's a big one. I mean, everything you said is definitely on point, but that's something that I know just as women, it's so easy to undervalue and undercut yourself. And I know that you've spoken to that, like we talk a lot more offline about this. If you could share a little bit about that, how did you get to the point where you stopped undercutting yourself and your value?
I was on a contract with a bunch of other women, and the client, female, high up, took me to lunch one day and said, maybe it was dinner, I can't remember. We went to a meal and she looked at me and said, I can't stomach it. This person is clearing $16,000 and they are not the primary on the contract. You are, and you're clearing $1,000 a month. I can't even.
Oh, wow.
She's like, I can't even like.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah.
I might have the numbers wrong, but it was like thousands of, like, it was enough for her to be like, can't do it.
Yeah.
And so she mentioned it to me and I was like, I'm sure that's not, because I wasn't making poor money, but I was not confident enough in my own business to price myself in a way that is really aligned with what I think I bring.
Yeah.
So any business person, if you say it's $200 a month, Kim, I'm not gonna be like, let me give you $6 million, you know,
right.
Nobody does that. Although I have with some people locally, younger women, I want them to get it right.
Yeah.
And so I went home and was like, I'm undercutting myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not maybe the smartest whatever at the table, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
definitely I definitely have some value to bring.
Right.
And I'm about to short my prices. And before that,
Mm-hmm.
I had not changed my prices in like 18 years.
Oh,
And
wow.
now, but let me put this all the way through. I don't want people leave people hanging. So now
Mm-hmm.
my growth margin is, I just did it yesterday. What was the offer?
Mm-hmm.
No, we can't do it for that. That scares the heck out of you if you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Yeah.
Scary, but I've started because what happens is the people that have undercut you,
Mm-hmm.
first of all, you undercut yourself, you pass it on, then you get mad at them. That's the whole thing. But the people that, if you put your right price on it and they start nickel and diming and undercutting you,
Mm-hmm.
you will spend more energy. You will already undercut yourself because the energy you're going to spend
Yes.
to convince them you're worth the dime,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be at a deficit. So when
Exactly.
I priced a speech the other day and it came out of my mouth like, honey, like it's this.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, oh, we have to think about it. I'm like, okay, get back to
Yeah.
me. It
Yeah.
got to Friday and I was like, I'm about to release this date
Mm-hmm.
so that
Mm-hmm.
somebody else can book it.
Yeah.
And they paid it
Wow.
before I opened my mouth.
See, I love that. Now, was that something you had to grow into over time? Just like this, because I know that's a constant thing that people always ask about when, like, whenever we solicit information, like not information, I'm sorry, ask people what they want to learn more about is pricing. Is how do you stand firm? How do you keep standing? Like, how do you know you're not overpricing yourself and not underpricing yourself? I mean, it's such a thing, but I think it's like I said, you kind of work through it until you really understand your own value. But you got to work through that to know your value. Yeah.
Listen, I model and watch other women in the room when they just roll off their tongue. That's about a $1,000 project for 3 months. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, that's a $60,000 project for 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And you look at market rate, like if anybody, watching this goes and just looks at
Mm-hmm.
the market rate of whatever they're doing, chances are you are not shoring up
Yep.
the rate correctly because we're talking about your intellectual capital,
Mm-hmm.
your lived experience,
Yeah.
your time. And it doesn't matter if you can do it quickly. Like I can do it quickly, so I shouldn't charge more. Because you can do it quickly, you should charge more. It tells you they're paying for your experience
Yeah.
over time, right?
Exactly.
So sometimes you're like, oh, I can do it fast, only this much. I'm like, no, because you can do it fast.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, slow down.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
they will pay. And so that, and I sometimes when it gets like with the economy right now, people are scared.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still holding the line.
Yeah.
I say to my kids all the time, like, let me introduce you to this pot of beans. Like, I'm not, because the minute you undercut yourself, you don't love the work that you were purposed and destined to do.
I have been there. Yes. You start regretting it and then you start feeling more like, oh my God, resentful of the work when you really don't show up your best self, when you realize you undercut yourself and you're still having to do the same work. Yeah.
And why is it that those projects last forever? If it's 5 months, if it's like 12 years, it's like, why can't we just close this project out? And so I don't, and every year now, when I get to the end of the year, I look at my clients and I do an analysis of like, how much time did I enjoy it?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good question.
Were we in sync? How much time did I spend having to counsel them to convince them of what I'm telling them? That's a fact.
Yeah.
If you can't take what I'm telling you at face value, we might not. And I let some go this going into 24. That was good money. But when I did the analysis, like these people gave me an ulcer. They're reactive. They're poor planners. They're never on time. They disrespect my time.
Yeah, exactly.
They want the world, but they hand me crap to make magic out of. I didn't agree up with them.
Yeah.
Have I replaced all of them? Not yet, but I'm not worried about it.
So I love that because you've grown into where you've had that assurity that you don't need to open doors to things that are going to create more drama. Or because to me, I feel like when you start opening and accepting those kind of clients, you attract more of that type of business into your business. And then it becomes a thing where you start dreading it and you start like not really enjoying what you're doing.
Right.
So, yeah.
And those clients that are already abusing you will tell somebody else to hire you. And they're like, oh, she'll do whatever. Now you got another problem.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's just not, I really, and it's scary. Like, and don't get me, it's scary. Like, I'm like, oh, I haven't replaced 2 clients in 24 yet. It'll
Mm-hmm.
be fine.
It'll
The
come.
right ones will come.
Exactly. Well, I have to ask you this because I know that you always have such, in my opinion, really great wisdom, and I know that a lot of it was birthed from your father. And you wrote a book recently called The Lessons of Liz. And a lot of things that you're sharing, if people follow you, and they'll see that a lot of these, I call it little nuggets of wisdom that people can apply, even if they take one or two, can really shift how they show up in the world. Why is creating these lists and sharing this type of information so important to you?
So, first of all, you are always so kind and polite. Let's tell the audience that you had to kick me over the finish line on that book because I had given up on it. I was like, I can't finish this book because it was so my dad passed in 22 and it was so deep, and I'm like, I just can't do it. But it ended up being therapy and cathartic to finish it. So first, let me thank you for not giving up on me because I was done. But the lessons of lists, the reason why it's so powerful is the concept of taking enough time with ourselves to really think about what we think.
Yeah.
So the list making process has become a cathartic way to say, what are the lessons I've learned for this week? Right. And so I've been doing this practice for quite a while. I got it from my dad, as you mentioned, who always had an index card in his pocket with lists on it. I used to think it was weird. And like, what are you doing? We have technology now. It was always an index card. And he would, when you looked at these cards, it would be a famous quote or talking or a speech or a strategy, or it would be a question to himself. And so the process of making lists, and now I've started teaching it and using it with people, is a really good way to get clarity on your core values, your priorities, and your non-negotiables.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
So I really use it. And somebody just wrote me last night and had gotten the book, and they were like, this is not what I thought it would be at all. I've only gotten to the second page. I'm like, there's no race. It's not a race or a competition. The concept is, what is the strategy that works for you that literally slows down you and your central nervous system to be in a more responsive posture versus a distracted, fast-paced, busy, reactive posture.
Yes. Oh, I love that. So let me ask you this in closing, if you will. What would you share? Because a lot of our audience are entrepreneurs. Many of them have careers. Many of them work solo, the combination of both. But in terms of from a leadership perspective, because I don't think that's always taught a lot when it comes to entrepreneurship, how to lead yourself well. What are some insights you would love to share, like that people can take with them as they're working on leading their businesses differently?
I think there are lots of leadership attributes that experts talk about: flexibility, good communication skills, having expectations and goals. I think the two most valuable skills to strengthen your muscle around as a leader is self-awareness and courage.
Okay, that's different.
And I say that because we are in a really interesting time in our world where leadership is so complex. It is a zero-sum game. Sometimes can't win, picked wrong, don't know what to say. Why aren't they following? We've got 6 generations in any setting, whether you are working solo or you're working with clients. Baby boomers didn't retire. We've got traditionals all the way XYZ. That language, that glossary of terms is very different among those generations. And so as a leader, it becomes like, how do I toggle to meet people where they are in that space while not losing myself?
That's huge.
Me, that requires a firm commitment to self-awareness, meaning you are willing to hear hard feedback too. And courage, meaning if you are waiting for it to be 100% ready to go to step out there, you're going to wear out. I'm so proud of myself. I used to be like 100%, you coached me. You're like, we're never going to Now I have gotten it to, I can be about 40% sure and I'm launching.
Yeah, exactly. It makes a big difference.
Yep. But I used to be at 100%. And then I was the queen of leading nothing.
I wouldn't say that, but Pam.
Like I wouldn't say yes to the project.
Yeah.
I wouldn't make a decision. I would flounder. Well, leadership requires decision making. And the only way to get there is self-awareness around vulnerability and humility and courage. Sometimes you just gotta roll out.
You do. And that's the hardest thing. I think both of those things are really key, because like with self-awareness, if you're not honest with yourself about where you are and what you really need to do, it's going to be really hard for you to, in my opinion, expand and grow, because you'll start attracting things, you'll start making decisions and that are not favorable for yourself if you're not really aware of who you are and what you need to do. Yeah, I love that you said that.
My belief that I would be a gazillionaire now if I didn't spend the first 15 years of my business being so safe.
See, for me, it's being so scared, like the whole likability, like trying to make sure that I do everything right and not upset anyone, undervaluing myself. Yeah, when you think about all of that, and where you could be.
I love a good mistake now. Mistakes used to make me sick. Now clients like, you miss this. I'm like, I'll take the loss. I'm not even like, I messed it up. I'm human. Yeah. Because, and it's been a release for me versus it's got to be this way. Like, I'm human. Yes. I missed it. Yeah. I'm sorry. Keep it moving. Like, here's the recovery.
But it comes back with being self-aware too, and being able to own your situation, your mistakes. Because I think sometimes people are not really good about being self-responsible for mistakes and hiccups and things of that nature, and that can hurt. That becomes a domino effect. It can hurt so much of your relationship and how people see you if you don't take ownership. Yeah, you got to be self-aware to do that.
You have to be able to laugh at yourself. The day I did the presentation, it was supposed to be public, community, whatever, and it said pubic. It was a mess. It wasn't good. Sucked. What am I gonna like? I was. What you gonna do? Yeah, you're gonna roll in a ball and whatever, or you're gonna just make a joke about it, apologize, and keep it moving.
Yeah. I love that.
I have many stories. Many.
Well, I know you have a gamut of stuff. So let me ask, where can people learn more about you? And do you have anything like coming up right now that people can plug into?
So I have a couple of things coming up in the next couple of months, a couple of speaking engagements. You can find me at Pamela Benson Owens. Is it com?
It's com, yeah.
I don't even look at it. We're about to Lift Leadership Lounge again. I'm really excited about that, which will be kind of a sacred space to be vulnerable and like say your real stuff. I need to fire this person. I don't know how to. I didn't document well. How do I fix that? I don't know how to manage up, or I don't know how to, write a proposal that's complete. Like all those things, we're going to be doing those things in the next couple of months. And then I'm really going to be focusing on my new thing. Kind of is there's a younger contingency of female leaders that I'm worried that we, as who we are not making leadership and entrepreneurial ventures attractive. So I'm activism around mindfulness, getting still. Like there's an activism that's like get to the Capitol and fight the cause, but there's also the cause of activism that says you have access to joy and peace and calm. And so I'm working on redefining what activism is in the space.
Now that's powerful.
I'm working on it.
When you think of activism, you do have a certain image comes up or a certain like set of words, and it's definitely not calm, peace, and none of those at all, or joy. It's something a little bit differently. So that's going to be really powerful.
Well, I mean, the bottom line is this: you can't the anger piece and the hard piece. There's a place for that, but that's not sustainable.
No,
it's not healthy. So we need to talk about how leaders need to hold contradiction. Two things can seem absolutely opposite, but both be true.
Yeah. Yeah.
When we don't hold space for that, we miss it. So I can both understand the issues in my city and also embrace joy and peace and play. And both of those things can exist. So that's what I'm doing.
So you have a lot going on. I also want to say too that you also have a podcast. That's always it gives a lot of really great information too for people. I know you're getting ready to go live, make it a live podcast too.
We're
I heard.
on the episode. It is so painful because let's be clear, before I could just tape it in my pajamas looking a mess. Now I actually have to put on real clothes and the camera rolls.
And it's going to be awesome.
I'm not happy about it, but the first test where people are like, "Oh, we love it. It's fun." So I'm trying. But remember, it took me how many years to do a podcast, Kim? 8? Like 6?
It took you a couple of years to finally get to it. But when you start rolling and doing it live, you're going to love it. Like there was a time I remember, even my face broke out not too long ago, and I wouldn't even come on live. And now I'm like, it's all good. You just show up. I told Charles this morning, I was like, you know what? I said, I'm showing up regardless. I mean, it is what it is. You just start coming as you are.
I hope to, but you bring up a good lesson of making sure that, if you wait till you're fully comfortable, you won't do it.
You won't.
Yep.
No, not at all. Well,
thank you. I know we've gone over time, but good to see you. So fun.
Yes, and thank you so much for joining us. And so everyone, I'm going to post Pam's information at the end of this, and I just appreciate your time, Pam, and all your insights and your support and friendship.
Absolutely. Bye.